Ms. Taylor, thank you very much. What are your projections for growth? You indicated, I think you said, a growth of 300,000 additional people. That's within the county boundary. So that's give me the figures. Today, it's approximately.
Today, it's approximately. Give me 1 second, and I can find.
How many people in San Joaquin County?
Yeah, just
750 to 800.
Yeah, today it's approximately 730,000.
Okay.
At the end of our plan, it'll be slightly over 1 million people.
Okay, and you're going to add how many people in your estimation by the year 2040?
340,000.
340. Okay, so you'll be up at about 1 million.
Correct.
Okay. Is that a growth rate that is faster, slower, comparable to the county growth rate? I mean, how do you calculate that?
It's comparable. We actually utilized the University of Pacific's Eberhart Business Forecasting Center to prepare that forecast for us. It's about a 2%, slightly under 2% growth rate, which is comparable to what we've had.
2% per year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And how did you then calculate the reduction on, let me get back to the charts. You had estimated a reduction of agricultural land use conversion of about 10,000 plus acres. How did you reach that? What's the methodology to reach that?
So we started with coordinating with our local jurisdictions to project where that 340,000 people, where those 340,000 people would live throughout the county based on traditional growth patterns. So we looked at what's happened in the past. We looked at how many building permits have been issued over several years, where those building permits have occurred, where we have existing entitlements or vested lands, in terms of the approval processes from the local jurisdictions, and we created a business-as-usual footprint. We vetted that through our local jurisdictions to get to kind of what the growth footprint would be and how many acres of farmland would be consumed under that business-as-usual scenario. After we had the business-as-usual scenario developed, we developed 4 additional scenarios which had differing degrees of household development, differing degrees of different types of housing units to develop the scenario that became our regional transportation plan. We took public input, we took input from our board, as well as we took input from the local jurisdictions to say how the county might grow differently than it's grown as business as usual. One of the good things that our local jurisdictions have been doing, and I'd like to highlight as part of the process, is they've updated their general plans to address AB 32 and SB 375, and they have already shrunk their footprints from business as usual. So some of this has already happened and is already happening, but we started with a business as usual, and then we shrunk the footprint based on public input and our local jurisdictions input to arrive at a much more compact development pattern.
I guess other than talking to my 2 San Joaquin County resident colleagues on this, I read the Stockton Record and also Stockton City Limits blog, which is very informative. And I was under the impression that there was a certain amount of commotion at one of your recent meetings when board members, if I remember this correctly, Tracy, Lathrop representatives, don't remember about City of Stockton, were fussing about the fact that your assumptions might not be consistent with what they'd like to do in the future and all of that. So where are the pressure points just likely to be? I'm not asking you to make a commitment on this.
Some of the pressure points and some of the information we heard from our board is to give them a better explanation of there's a specific figure which identifies revenue and a shift in revenue, moving from less widening projects to more rehab and maintenance of the roadway system. That was a big discussion point for them. They wanted some additional information into what went into that pie chart and how that pie chart was developed. I would say that pie chart is reflective of our coordination with the local jurisdictions and their planning staffs to develop our actual transportation project list. So part of it is just adding additional information for our elected officials on our board so that they understand how we got to the pie charts.
Have any of the local jurisdictions advised you of development plans beyond their sphere of influence that they wish you to take account of?
No, and I can't say what's going to happen in the future, so obviously that's still out there, and our plan does go out to 2040. But the footprint that you see was developed in coordination with the local jurisdiction. So they've actually identified places where they felt growth would occur to get to the scenario, and they've also let us know places where growth would not occur as part of development.
As part of our process, the city of Stockton and its previous mayor, Ann Johnson, had repeatedly advised us that the council should grant an exemption to the city of Stockton for any property they develop, whether it was in their sphere of influence or not, which we did not do. Are you assuming that they are expanding further into the secondary zone of the Delta in this plan?
We are not assuming that they are growing even further into the secondary zone of the Delta. Our plan, and I'll go back to, well, the slides aren't up anymore, but if we go back to, I believe it's slide 11, there's a zoomed in element where we show the consistency of the Delta plan. It's after the first main county slide where we can actually see the city of Stockton. And as you see, the pink areas within the urbanized area, as of the adoption of the Delta plan, our plan predicts that growth will occur within those urbanized areas that are consistent with the Delta plan.
Has your LAFCO, your body made a determination yet as to what would happen to your certification of transportation plan or other activities if the basic assumptions you've made as to jurisdiction, population growth, territory turn out not to be significantly true?
I think, and maybe I can highlight a couple of things that I didn't highlight in the presentation. Sorry. Let me move the microphone a little closer. One of the things we do routinely is we update our plan every 4 years. So I think we can all agree that none of us have a crystal ball or a magic answer to what the future will look like. So we'll update with those projections as we move forward. One of the things I'll highlight as well is we do not have land use authority, so we can recommend that this is the growth pattern, but it is up to the local jurisdictions and the local agencies to actually implement the plan. And we'll be working, one of our next steps in one of our chapters, I believe it's chapter 7 of our plan, is implementation of the SCS. So we'll continue to coordinate and work with our local jurisdictions on how we actually implement the growth pattern that's identified in the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe I could answer Phil a couple of quick questions. LAFCO basically all the cities did sphere of influence kind of redos, and we shrunk most of them because they had basically thrown their net out to include everything. And so we said, well, it could take you several hundred years to do that, and so we basically, we weren't quite able to get Tracy, which looked like an amoeba under a microscope that got hit with a hammer, just kind of squished out all over the place. So we kind of reined them in a little bit. But all the growth right now is in the South County. It's in Mountain House, Tracy, Lathrop, Manteca. That's where they're pulling all their housing stuff. Stockton has an agreement that they signed with Jerry Brown when he was Attorney General to basically be green, and it kind of goes to the judge's comment at lunch today, what's going on downtown. And supposedly Stockton cannot grow in any, into any farmland until it builds 2,000 or 3,000 units in the downtown area. So that was the litigation settlement. That may hold them up slightly. I think that they may have added 5 or 10 units downtown in the last 10 years. So at that pace, we may be a while. The county, basically, the new general plan on the county will be voted on this year. About what time? Hopefully before I leave, but I've been told that will happen, so I don't have to sleep through any of those events. So it should happen sometime towards the end of this year, and it basically, we had to go through, because there were lots of people that wanted to leapfrog out into the country and basically, just let me do this little development here and there. And we reined them in pretty good as a board, because we had to hear every one of those requests. So I think because of it's hard to really get a handle on where the growth is because we've just finished up 5 or 6 years of no growth, stagnation. So it'll be interesting to see in the next year or two how things, with the recovery, how things then play out in the central and north part of the county. But I don't think there's, if the political will stays firm to keep growth contained within existing boundaries and the economics kind of back that up, because when you expand out, you have all those additional costs of all that infrastructure, and I think that will be as much of a break on the kind of wild, crazy development that took place in the past. I just don't know if they can come up with the money to do those, that horrendous in-the-ground capital improvements. And we all want to see, smart growth. If anybody here agrees on a definition, let me know. But I don't think you won't see anything in the Delta, in the primary zone. There's just not a chance of that happening. The question is how much of the secondary zone, which you are all interested in, how much of that can be kept to a minimum. But I won't be here, so.
Any other questions? Cindy?
Okay, well, thank you. This pretty much concludes the presentation. I'll just say thank you to Tanisha, to Jessica. And we, DSC staff, will meet the commitment of turning in comments on the draft plan, draft EIR, by April 23rd. We've listened to the discussion today. It gives us a little bit more food for thought in our review of the plans. And obviously, we'll continue to work with SJCOG as well as the other two organizations to build these kind of relationships, to coordinate, and to look more carefully at the process.
Red button.
I thought of a question. Thank you, Ms. Taylor, for your presentation. What's the relationship between the expansion project that's underway on I-5 through Stockton and the approval of thousands of potential home sites north of the city between 8 Mile Road and the Lodi sewer plant?
And the Lodi, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the
Sewer plant.
I'm not familiar with the Lodi sewer plant. It's out of our realm of jurisdiction, so we generally don't follow sewer plans, but I can speak to the I-5 project that you're referencing and maybe some of the relationship to our regional transportation plan and sustainable community strategy. One of the things, if we go back again to that same slide that we were talking about in terms of the city of Stockton, the I-5 project will be complete before, or is identified as the baseline for our regional transportation plan. So when we talk about business as usual, that project is part of our business as usual scenario because it will be existing on the ground.
So that was the old paradigm, which was keep expanding the freeway to accommodate more commuter traffic to the Bay Area.
That's correct.
For low density developments.
That's correct.
But it's new now, right?
It is a new paradigm, and we have changed, and maybe I can highlight a couple of additional things to answer your question, is that for our plan moving forward, we have only one true widening on SR 120, and that's actually out in 2040, so that's a ways away. All of our other widenings on I-5 and SR 99 will be HOV lanes, as well as widenings on I-205 to accommodate and to promote carpooling rather than single occupant people driving by themselves. In terms of the, I'm sorry. In terms of the growth north of 8 Mile, we've actually reined that in as part of our plan. So we don't have that same level of sprawl growth growing north towards Lodi for the city of Stockton, as is the paradigm shift and time frame right now.
Reined in, I thought the entitlements were secure south of 8 Mile Road.
South of 8 Mile,
north.
they are, but not north. So under the existing growth pattern, the city of Stockton would grow north of 8 Mile based on their existing adopted general plan. In coordination with the City of Stockton staff, that we've actually coordinated to say that growth north of 8 Mile likely won't occur or will occur in slower increments moving forward in actually implementation of the plan itself.
Help me, Larry. Isn't that all pre-approved by
The south?
the council? No, north.
North
actually.
is, let's just say that there are those that think it's a done deal. I don't believe it is. I'd say also the biggest problem with going west into the delta that they have south of 8 Mile is going to be the flood, the continued flood issue, the 200-year, and whether or not they can afford to do those improvements.
Were you with San Joaquin COG when it joined Caltrans in opposing doing HOV lanes for the expansion that currently exists at 205?
I was not. I'm sorry.
But it's a new day, huh?
It is a new day. Caltrans as well as SJCOG are looking at things a little differently, recognizing that widening is not the only answer. It is a multimodal system. In terms of our dollar allocation, in terms of the plan, we have $11 billion and an $11 billion plan with approximately $3 billion going to transit and $3 billion going to roadways, and all of the different variations in between. So it truly is a multimodal plan. We have additional improvements to the Altamont Commuter Express. We have the high occupancy vehicle lanes, as well as additional bike and pedestrian improvements to better facilitate coordination amongst all of the modes of transportation. And we've coordinated with Caltrans in the development of our plan, especially those highway widening projects as HOV lanes.
You better have good bike lanes or someone up here will be very angry.
Your boss, Andy Chesley, called me one day and said, I found a bridge that was too short for the river it was supposed to span in Alabama, and it's lying in a corporation yard in Texas, and we could move it and put it across the Stanislaus River and create a bike bridge from Ripon over to Modesto. So we were able to do that, which was a good thing. And yet, I noticed kind of a dearth of bike routes and facilities, not attributable to any one agency, but Tracy and Manteca are pretty good, Stockton pretty bad. Even though you have a nice picture here of somebody riding a bike down by the waterfront. But I don't know where that person would go when they got to the corner.
We're
Probably be
working
run
to
off the
change that
road.
paradigm. Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Okay. So I echo Cindy's thanks, Jessica, Tanisha. Thank you for the presentation.
I thought the judge was going to ask about downtown Stockton.
Okay, so that completes file item number 11. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
The next item up is file item 10, near-term project impediments, Coalition for Delta Projects report. Taran Ravizini is the staff responsible for this group. Yes, at this time.